That's Kevin Borba of Locked On Buffs. Transfer portal buzzing again for Colorado as they've just picked up another wide receiver. That's a position you're going to want to reload a bit on. You did kind of lose arguably the best receiver in the country, who was the number 2 overall draft pick this year. And not only is Colorado soaring, we can start there. Texas Tech, even West Virginia, in the top 10 in the country, according to Rivals. The Big 12 across the board, schools that kind of needed to fill major holes have done that. Colorado is right there in that mix.
Yeah, and I would like to point out Colorado, most wide receivers drafted in college football this year. So best in the country. Wide receiver U, should we get the argument started? I don't know.
Oh,
is it too soon? Is it too soon? One class with 3 people. Is it too soon? I don't know. But they did dip in the portal the past couple of days. They added a 7th offensive lineman in Andre Roy Jr. from Maryland, starter, played over 400 snaps, only allowed 1 sack. And then they brought in Jack Estera, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. He was a fun story. He was actually on the Colorado team as a walk-on when Deion Sanders took the job and was one of the guys that was shown the door, ended up at Charlotte, Utah State, and now he's back. And he's got a little bit of experience under his belt. His dad was on the championship team in the 90s for the Buffs. And I think for Colorado, when you lose 4, because they also lost a 4th guy, Will Shepard, didn't get drafted, but I do think he'll get an opportunity as an undrafted free agent. When you lose 4 NFL guys, we'll call it, it's a big deal, right? You lose your starting quarterback, you lose all your receivers. There's a lot of mix and matching that you'll have to figure out, right? And I don't think you're going to replace Travis Hunter with one guy. I don't think you're going to replace Jimmy Horn with one guy. I think you have to moneyball it. And I keep throwing this phrase out on my show because that's the best way to compare it. And Moneyball, if you guys aren't familiar, was a baseball movie about the Oakland A's, currently now the Sacramento Athletics, whatever you want to call them. Disappointment to the Bay Area. Well, we know that for sure. I don't know what you want to call them, but they are a disappointment to the Bay Area. But their whole shtick was replacing expensive star players with a handful of guys who can match their production, right? And Colorado is sort of going to need guys to do that, right? I think they want to have star players emerge, but they also know, like, hey, replacing hundreds of catches and thousands of yards is not easy. And so having guys who could come in and make plays when needed could be a good thing or a solution.
Colorado brought in 50-plus transfers the first 2 years under Deion Sanders. This year, the number sits currently at 28. In my mind, there are some people look at that and they're like, oh, he's changing his ways and the culture's gone and he's no longer going to keep building through the portal. In my mind, there's now enough continuity. There are enough players returning. There's enough production returning that he doesn't have to go get an entire roster or overhaul, 10 position groups. He can just work with the guys he already got out of the portal last season from the high school ranks and fill the holes where they need to be filled. Is that how you view Deion's attack in the portal this year?
Yeah, I think you're hitting it right on the nail. Honestly, they brought in over 100 players first 2 years, right? It was like a whole thing. This first year comes on the campus, literally tells the 2021 team, please leave. Like, literally leave. Like, it's what Drake's former future in-law said to him. Like, that's it. They said, please leave, right? No, I'm just messing with you, Drake. But no, he's
got a great point.
He wanted everyone from that 1-11 team to get the hell out of Dodge, and he wanted to bring in all of these portal guys. And to me, that was never a permanent solution. That was just sort of like hey, this team was historically bad, and I can't imagine there's much I could do with them. And not a lot of them ended up at Power 5 schools. Not a lot of them ended up starting wherever they went. There was a few cases here and there. Jordan Tyson would have been nice to have for the Buffs last year, right? Arizona State star receiver. But yeah, I think he has recruited at a successful level. He's not bringing in 30 recruits per year, but he is bringing in a certain quality of players that could play right away for him. Flipped the guy from Ohio State, brought in a 5-star in Jordan Seaton, right? He is getting players who fit his mold of being able to play right away. And I think, and you hit this earlier, it's easier to fill a need, right? It's like, oh, we lost 3 receivers, we need to bring in 3. Than it is to be like, okay, we lost 70 guys, let's just go out there, because the spring portal is pretty barren, right? There's not, like, outside of Nico Imiala, whatever his name is, Nico, I need money. There wasn't many big name spring portal entries. And so I think he is sort of figuring out his dynamic. When he does bring in transfers, it's guys that have multiple years of eligibility. So it's kind of like a long-term investment, and you kind of have to, or you get to skip the part of like developing them as freshmen.
Yeah. Well, that is a point that I've made so often on my show, and I'll make it a billion times over. Do you want the junior from Western Kentucky with 2 years of eligibility, or the 4-star kid from Aledo High School who is 18? I personally take the 21-year-old who has 300 snaps in college football. That's the guy that I want on my sideline as opposed to a freshman. And a lot goes into that: culture fit, development, that's a wide array of things can go wrong. But in college football today, you want the kid who has the experience. I personally do. And then from there, hey, we have 2 years to develop him, but he's already been pretty well developed at a different school. Are Colorado fans, how are Colorado fans taking this era? I think we've turned chapters from transfer portal Deion Sanders to ball coach Deion Sanders. Here's a guy who's settled in, he's got what he wants, and now he can start to actually function with consistency. How are Colorado fans approaching that?
I think there's been a weight lifted off their shoulders, Drake, because I think every show I made an appearance on in the past 2 years was like, okay, tell us about how exciting this team is around Shedeur and Travis. And then the next question would be, okay, when's Deion leaving? Like, is he leaving for a coaching job? Is he leaving for a TV job, right? And I think him re-signing one of the highest paid coaches in college football, might I add, great investment for those who really understand why it's a great investment. But I think Colorado fans are excited, right? I think that was the biggest question, or like the biggest fear was, does Deion Sanders have a desire to coach outside of his sons, right? That was what got him into coaching. He coached him every step of the way. Shiloh was the only one that didn't play for him initially because he started his career at South Carolina. And so Colorado fans are excited. I think they understand that Deion Sanders knows what he's doing in the portal, right? I've had a few experts come on my show to talk about some of the guys that have entered the portal or have joined Colorado from the portal. They covered them at their previous schools, and the FCS guys they found, like Sincere Brown, the 6'5" Campbell transfer, the wide receiver, a lot of people are excited about him. There's a lot of buzz around him possibly being the best or one of the better receivers in the Big 12, right? They've got Jaheim Otis from Alabama, who was at one point the number one player in the transfer portal. So he knows what he's doing. People are excited that he's signed up for the long term. And now I think the biggest question is just like, what's the next chapter look like without Shedeur and Travis? Although Deion's still here, what is the identity of this team? Can they still compete at the highest level?
I think my biggest question in the immediate would be quarterback play. If Colorado finds in Caden Salter a consistent starting quarterback who goes out and gives them, a positive wins above replacement, hello baseball, then you're in good shape. If you find yourself like Utah thinks it was one quarterback away last season, they did have some really good pieces across the board. Yeah. They just didn't have that catalyst at signal caller that could get them there. If that's the boat Colorado falls into this year, that's where things get hairy because the roster is so solid. It's just every play offensively starts with one guy holding on to the football, and if that guy can't get it done, then you're up the creek without the paddle, and that could be Colorado's issue. I don't know if it will be. Deion Sanders seems to be pretty good at the whole quarterback thing. So we'll see how he's able to develop and how he figures out. I mean, there's still a battle, I feel like, going on in Colorado, too. Like, you've got an all-star stud 18-year-old versus Caden Salter, who was really good at Liberty. We'll see how it shakes out. Coming up, over-under on win totals this year. Vegas is smoking something, which is not abnormal. It's just they're smoking something on the Big 12 this time.